Well, I want to say welcome to everyone on this May 5th, 2025. I don't know how many of you are out there celebrating Cinco de Mayo, but if you are, I hope you're having a good one. Since we did the last one of these, it seems that the markets have been pretty hot, and we've got maybe 2 solid weeks here of really positive movement. I just wonder what your thoughts were on that.
Yeah, it's definitely been a nice relief from just the most bearish bull market I've experienced, but it's definitely been positive. I think that the world economy has kind of settled down with all of the warring and tariffs and all of that. So I think that as the panic kind of subsides a little bit more. Definitely hope to and expect to see a much healthier market over the next coming weeks and months. And if only Ethereum can catch up to Bitcoin. I'm still baffled that ETH is under $2,000 and Bitcoin's going 93, 94, $95,000, and and ETH is under two. So if ETH can catch up to Bitcoin, I think that's going to be the biggest positive impact on the entire market because 99.99% of everything is paired with ETH. So
Yeah.
unfortunately, none of us paired our tokens with Bitcoin.
Yeah. I fully agree that if we want alt season to really come, ETH is still going to have to be that catalyst that pushes everything forward, which leads me into one of my other questions I had for you. And do you think that maybe one of the reasons ETH isn't going is it maybe too early that you need to wait for Bitcoin to still go higher, or is a lot of these L2s like the one we're on base, are they pulling away some of that momentum that in previous years or previous cycles would have exclusively gone to ETH?
I'll be honest. I mean, I've had a lot of theories on Solana being a big part of it, and I don't think that's necessarily L2s. Honestly, at this point, I can't even. I'm baffled. You can look at all the different indicators or excuses, maybe, and say like, oh, it was Solana with all the meme coins or the L2s. Regardless, this is an underperformance um, that it's historical in my opinion. It just does not make sense at this point. At minimum, 2,500. That would make sense. 3,000. I'm at this point completely baffled. Uh, Bitcoin's, exploded at its all-time high by what, 10, 20%.
Mm-hmm.
And Bitcoin never, and Ethereum never even reached all-time high. So it's just, I don't know.
Right.
I don't
Yeah.
know, man.
Well, that's
Still
that's
baffled.
part of this, is trying to figure out and trying to wonder, but at the end of the day we can really just kind of have our informed guesses or speculate, but the markets are the markets and they are what they
Yeah.
are, and I can control them in one way. Anytime I buy something, I can instantly assume it's going to go down right away, but outside of that, not much control. Um, so on that same sort of theme with the other projects or something like that, or the other chains, are there any other projects or tokens that are catching your eye right now, or you like what they're doing or the direction they're headed, or just think that they're being innovative and
I think Sonic. I think Sonic is doing really well. I think that as a chain, I think that a lot of DeFi OGs and veterans, came out of Phantom, and I think that Sonic's doing a terrific job of not just being another one of these, Optimism L2 uh, chains, and just paving its own way. Um, and so, yeah, I'm really excited seeing what the Sonic Foundation's doing. Outside of that, there's no like meme coins or really there. I feel like there hasn't been anything significant that's caught my eye outside of that. I do. I will take a second to mention optimism. We were lucky enough and very grateful to have received some retro funding grants for our uh, success here on base. And, I think that's a testament of us working hard that even a small team can be recognized for the contributions to the chain. We beat out pretty much every dex on base outside of Aerodrome. So that's a testament to what our Dex is doing, and I'm excited to take those op rewards and to use them to provide liquidity on our Dex to further our contribution to the chain. And so I'm really excited about what Optimism's doing. They've done a great job of helping smaller teams and I think that the op token has got a lot of potential as well because of that.
Absolutely. In this next leg of the bull phase, is Superchain base optimism, is that still the place to be? Will we see a lot of activity maybe on Solana? Will some of it come back to Ethereum? Is there a new chain that maybe we haven't seen that will be the big winner at the end of this, or is base still the place?
I do think that base is still the place in terms of what is going to where majority of retail is going to funnel into. Right now, I've seen a statistic this morning that only 7% of the world's population is invested in cryptocurrency. When the masses start those investments, they're going to do it through CEXs, and Coinbase being one of the largest in the world is going to be it's going to be a very easy handoff to introduce them, one, to crypto, two, to DeFi through base chain. Another one I think that has been one of the most dominant and I believe is going to be big in this cycle again, even though that there's not been a ton of news, is going to be BNB, BSC chain from Binance. Same scenario, and they've been one of the most dominant for a very long time. And if you look at the chain volumes and metric, it's still performing extremely well. The BNB token has done extremely well through this market cycle. And so I think that you're going to see BNB and Base really stand out this cycle, just because of the ease of the retail users are going to come through that channel. There's no other way for someone really, and that's the unfortunate part for us in DeFi. It's kind of hard to introduce someone to DeFi if they don't know the fundamentals of crypto itself, and so that's just the funnels that they're going to go through.
Right. So do you think it's important for projects or tokens to necessarily have their token on a centralized exchange as compared to a DEX like what we have with BaseSwap? A lot of people in our community or outside of the community will always say, when are you listing, or why don't you list? Can you kind of explain maybe some advantages of doing so, and then maybe some reasons why that's not feasible in some scenarios to actually list your token on a centralized exchange like Coinbase?
Uh, yeah. So I mean, the benefit is definitely obvious, right? You're on a CEX. It's making your token the most accessible that it can possibly be. Being front and center, and someone can use a debit card or a bank account to invest into your token. The issue and what people tend to not understand is the listing process costs tens of thousands, if not sometimes in some cases hundreds of thousands of dollars in your token as well. You've got to provide the token, you've got to provide cash. Now, in the sense of like Coinbase has this free offering, advertisement that they do, but they're really looking for those pop-up meme coins that are doing, millions and millions of dollars in volume a day. And you're just not going to see that on a native DEX token, right? You can see 100x in a native DEX token very easily, but what they want is something that's going to fluff their numbers. And what's appealing to retail, right? Is BaseSwap being listed on Coinbase going to catch the eye of somebody? Probably not. But if you hear, oh, the new PayPay meme coin, then that's going to draw a little bit more attention. So you're going to have CEXs that are more inclined to go that direction. And then for a smaller project like ourselves, when we even do get in talks with those CEXs, you're talking about funds that I don't think anyone here would be happy if we sold $50,000 worth of BaseSwap to get listed on a CEX. That just I don't think you can think that it would be a positive outcome, but that would in no way, shape, or form be positive. So you might get a quick little pump, but overall, um, you're making a detrimental decision at that point. So
Right.
we're happy with where we're at. If Coinbase wants to come in and they want to list us for free, that'll be terrific. But I think that we've done a very good job and are very successful without a CEX, and we're going to continue being successful regardless.
Excellent. Well, speaking of centralized exchanges and stuff like that, if I were to hand you $1,000 right now and you were new to crypto, how would you allocate that $1,000 if you were putting together a brand new portfolio?
$1,000, I would do. If you're new to crypto, I would expose myself to a couple different scenarios. I would set up a little stable pool, so probably do about 250 to 300 bucks in a stable pool, USDC, USDT. Then I would do something like a blue chip. I would do, 200. I would do majority of it probably, and I would do about 500 of it in like a wrapped ETH USDC pool. Something that's going to have a little, I'll do a blue chip, something like wrapped ETH Bitcoin, and do $250. You've got yourself some stable exposure. You've got yourself exposed to, wrapped ETH blue chip with USDC on the other side. So you're not completely exposed to the market volatility. And then I would go all in with the second 250 with a blue chip, because overall the crypto market is going to go up. How long that will take, who knows? But I think it's good to have a nice spread.
Right. Absolutely. You had mentioned the WETH USDC, like a blue chip pool. We've got a great option for that on BaseSwap. Last time I checked, paying 320 plus APR. So when we push those and we're mentioning those pools on our social media account and telling people to get into this, what is the benefit to the project for us pushing people into that pool, and then what's the benefit to the community for actually.
So it's a kind of a multiple answer to that. So for the project, obviously, the more volume that's generated, the more fees that can be dedicated to BSwap and really just the overall functioning of the project, right? So the idea, and people need to understand that we make money, the DEX makes money, the BSwap holders make money by liquidity providers making money. So, there's 20% of the fees that are, generated or is what's dedicated to the stakers and to fueling the overall ship. So we are, one, steering our users to what is the most profitable um, scenario or yield farming opportunity for them, right? Because the more money they make, the better that the more oil for the gears of the engine to turn, right? So, one, we're trying to put the most money into our users' pockets. Two, having these high volume metrics is one thing that, will also give us the opportunity to get further grants in the future, right? You've got to be a big contributor to the chain. So not only are we, pushing users to, earn the most that they possibly can and get the best bang for their buck, but we also want to give them an opportunity to help us contribute to the chain so that we can be then rewarded and then transfer those rewards back to the user. So it's a nice flywheel, and all in all of it is to benefit the user at the end of the day.
Awesome. So basically, the more volume and activity we have on the chain, the larger our grants can be for that activity, and then we're able to give a percentage of that, usually a very high percentage of that, back to the community.
Yep.
Perfect. Now, why do sometimes rewards through BaseSwap have to be distributed through Merkle? And although they are accessible through our dashboard, you can collect all your rewards through that page, that dashboard page. Why are the rewards coming through Merkle and not us directly?
So that's just the technology and the code that we have essentially, right? So we Uniswap is the pioneer, would be the word I would use for this DeFi world, right? And so, if you're going to do anything, if it's not broke, don't fix it. So we obviously, have used Uniswap code, changed fee tiers to what we think will be more successful. But all in all, to distribute rewards to a liquidity pool, like a concentrated liquidity pool like that, you need some outside infrastructure, right? And the great thing about Merkle and why we're so happy to use it is Merkle will distribute rewards based on the higher fee earner. So if someone's got their liquidity in a tighter range, they're going to be rewarded more heavily than somebody that's just sitting in full range, and rightfully so, because they're exposing themselves more to impermanent loss, and frankly, they're doing more for the pool and the decks themselves by having their liquidity in a tight range because it's able to generate a whole lot more volume. But yeah, that's essentially it.
Perfect. When you're building a project or thinking of starting a token, and you're putting together your idea and your plan and your team, for example, what sort of things do you think are important for that token or project to have success?
Honesty. I think honesty in a team is by far the most important trait. I have in my walk in DeFi, I've met a lot of founders, I've met a lot of developers, I've met a lot of project leaders that are just about themselves. And I think that when you're investing in a token, I think the biggest, most important part is the morality of who is behind it, right? If they don't have good morals, I'm a firm believer in God and Jesus Christ, and I think that uh, if you have a leader behind something that has that moral compass and believes that, then they're going to be successful. The next thing is going to be a dedicated team. Um, we've been lucky and fortunate enough to have some of the most dedicated team members that I've ever met. And, a lot of these guys had never been on a project before, but they were just loyal, trustworthy people in the community that I knew that if our backs were against the wall, I could count on. And so, I've seen guys that were not coders turn into brilliant coders. I've seen guys that, have never done a graphic design outside of Paint turn into great graphic designers. I've seen guys that have never moderated a Discord set up a full Discord with all the bells and whistles that is more security tight than even the biggest discords like Optimism or Sonium discords or Mode, for example. I've had our mods looking at their Discord, and it was um, like child's play to what these guys put together. So I think having dedicated, loyal team members is the second biggest thing. Um, and then just having a direction, having a vision of what you want to achieve. Understanding that you're gonna have to be modular, understanding you're gonna have to adapt and change, and not be scared to do that. And finally, not being afraid to fail. Um, I have in my life, I've failed many, many times, but that's what you learn from. You're never going to get it right and come out with the most successful project in the world right out of the gate. If you do, you are the luckiest man in
The
the
one.
world. But many people, yeah, you're the one. You are Neo from the Matrix. Um, but I think at the end of the day, many people don't get to their success. They could be right on the cusp of being so successful, but they're scared to just jump because they think they might fail. And just don't be afraid of failure, because if you surround yourself with good moral people and dedicated team members, it doesn't matter if you fail or not, because you'll get back up and you'll try again,
That's
and
it.
it will work.
That's and that's life, right? Like you've got to take
Yeah,
those chances, and the ones that do, they're the ones that reap the rewards. It makes me think of that meme we've probably all seen where the guy's mining and he's only a foot away from the big stash of diamonds or gold or jewels or whatever, but he
yeah,
turns around and packs it in. So, with that being said,
yeah, 100%.
what do you love about what you did with BaseSwap? And if you had a chance to do it again, what are some things maybe you would tweak a little, knowing what you know now and having it running for, I guess, coming up on a year and a half now, pretty close to, I guess, almost 2 years now. So looking back, what would you do absolutely the same that you love that, and what would you tweak if you had that second chance?
I think the first thing would be I love the revenue sharing that we've done with the stakers. I think that's been terrific. I think having cash go straight back to um, token holders is wonderful. If I were able to do start again, and also being a first mover advantage, right? We weren't afraid to. We saw base coming, and we moved very quickly. If I had to do it again, I would name it something other than base swap. um, as many of you know, that Coinbase has been very vocal to us as a team as to why
Mm,
they have not been the most publicly supporting, due to our name and not wanting people to confuse us with them and things like that. So first and foremost, we would name ourselves something other than BaseSwap. Although it may have brought many users to us, and likely a lot of them came to BaseSwap thinking that we were Coinbase or the official DEX of the chain. That's not why, one, we would want users to come. So I would much rather trade any users that accidentally came in through that thought process for some more support from Base. Um, and I probably would do something different with the two token model. Um, because it essentially has introduced three tokens to the ecosystem. I think that we've done very good with the managing of it. The reason that the two token model kind of came um, out is because we wanted to go with the X token and the vested token. But we renounced the ownership of the BSwap token to the master chef. So we didn't have the flexibility to do what we wanted. And that's kind of how the second token BSX was introduced, because we wanted to do things that we were not physically able to do without ownership of the BSwap token. So if I could go back, I would introduce those same mechanics with BSX with BSwap, and you would have a XBSwap. But here we are.
excellent. Zombie King, OG of the OGs, says thoughts on changing the name. I don't know if he's just referring to just the BSwap name or if he's thinking a rebrand. And have you seen that done successfully before? What would be the benefits to doing something, and what would be the negatives of changing your name or doing a full rebrand?
At this point, it's too far gone, too late for that. I think that we have a very established brand, without a ton of Coinbase support. Again, even just speaking about the CEX listings and things like that, I think that we've established ourselves very dominantly. So with our brand. So in my mind, there really is no reason to what we would rebrand so we would get some retweets from Base. I don't think that would even remotely be worth it. At this point in time and the life cycle of BaseSwap. So I think we've established ourselves as our own singular brand. People know us, know, we are a separate team. And I'm proud of BaseSwap. I love going to these, like ETH Denver and meeting so many different users that, have used BaseSwap, are actively using BaseSwap. Typically a rebrand is a negative thing, not a positive. Something happened, you had an exploit, something bad happened, and you want a fresh start. And that's typically why people rebrand. We've had none of that. We've been very successful. We've established our brand very well. And to me, there's no reason to go down that path.
Yeah, and from a marketing standpoint, all the backlinks that you've created over time, some paid through press releases or all the organic ones you do, you lose all those, and those links either come to broken pages or you have to keep the base swap name and then redirect it to a new domain, and in the end, it just sort of all falls apart. And the main reason that I feel most people want to do that, or in the past have done that, is just like Madrid said, you're trying to distance yourself from from some negative action, usually an exploit or a hack. You rebrand and say, "Oh, we're all new." But yeah, for a project like us, it's very, very, very hard. And like Madrid said, also, I don't even know if there'd be any positives at the end once you're finished. Which sort of leads me to another question. And in crypto and in these projects or tokens, we see so much of it being forked. What's the real benefit of starting with a forked project, be it a DEX or a token?
Security. The by far the biggest and in my opinion the biggest thing is security. I've seen so many people try to do something from scratch and watched people be absolutely destroyed and wrecked by putting their money in something that's very easily, not even easily, but just exploited. Unless you have millions and millions of dollars of backing and you've got hundreds of devs like Uniswap, you shouldn't be trying to, in my opinion, especially if it's something that's going to involve people's money. um, you shouldn't be trying to go too far away from the frame, right? You look at, let me use an example of cars, right? There's so many different car manufacturers, but every single one of them have four wheels, four brakes, a steering wheel, gas pedals, brakes. That doesn't change, right? And if you're trying to change something, like if it's not broken, you don't fix it, right? Like there's no three-wheel cars out here. It's you have to stick with that. So for us, Uniswap is the goat in terms of what we want to be as a DEX. And you try to mimic and follow successful players, right? When you look at players that people that watch the NBA growing up, they watch Michael Jordan growing up, right? You want to aspire and to be like the greatest there is, right? And so you watch Kobe Bryant mimic Michael Jordan, or fork, right, his moves. You watch him fork his fadeaways. You watch him do those things, and he became extremely successful in his own right. If you watch Michael Jordan play and you wanted to be like him, but you're like, you know what, I'm going to shoot with my head turned to the basket. Well, you can try it, but I think you should try to do what they're doing. So there's nothing wrong with having unique ideas. There's nothing wrong with having, wanting to build something unique. But a lot of the times, I mean, most things function kind of the same. So there's nothing wrong with, and I encourage, if there's token contracts or pieces of code that you can take from other teams that have had hundreds of developers and hundreds of auditors and hundreds of people try. You know how many people have tried to exploit Uniswap? I mean, millions. Nobody's been able to do it that you can find. So that's what I would say. Security is the number one reason why you're going to fork something. Um,
Um,
okay.
okay, two more questions, two really quick ones, and then I think we could open it up to the floor and see if anyone else has any other questions for Madrid here today on this May 5th Cinco de Mayo day. Um, Coins have the majority of them reached their all-time high? Is the best still ahead of us?
Um, I have to think so. I'm not going to give financial advice and say yes, like we're going to go back to all time high. In all reality, I think you kind of have to take the first initial launch, right? Like I can't say what I definitively think that base swap all time high is, right? If you say the highest the token ever went, it's going to be like 12 or $13 maybe. The likelihood of $12 to $13 is probably slim because that was like a wick, right? You see a lot of tokens just wick up really high and then drop down. I think that the best way to consider what an all-time high would be is after the launch period and actually see how the token's performing. Do I think that we'll see, above $1, $2, $3? Absolutely. I think that's very easily achievable. But again, I'm not going to set like some unrealistic expectations. I think 12 would be a little. It would be great if it did, but I don't know who we would bribe to do all of that. That'd be a little crazy.
Yeah, it's hard at the beginning. The liquidity pools aren't as deep. There's not as much of the token out there. There's so many factors that go into a token like BSwap. Um, do you have any wild predictions for us for the next 6 months or a year? Something that you might see happening that wouldn't really surprise you, but would maybe surprise the market overall?
I guess it'll be wild if Ethereum can break 3,000 without Bitcoin having to go over 100.
Wow,
Uh,
that would have been
at this rate, I think
such
we're gonna have to see 150,000.
that would have been such a safe prediction to make 6 months ago, a year ago, right? That would have been just like people would have been like, yeah,
Yeah,
duh, of course. And now, yeah, you might almost call that a wild prediction. So that's awesome. That's really awesome.
yeah.
If anyone has any questions, please type them below. Seems like our good friend Noro has a question here. What do you think about alt season? In my opinion, we can see it in October. Interesting to listen to your thoughts. Also, maybe some clues about base swap decks that we don't know yet. So
If if we don't see it, yeah, if we don't see it in July, we're not gonna see it. If we don't see it by July, I'm talking DeFi summer, like what we've seen in the past. If we don't have a DeFi summer, I would be prepared to probably quickly move out of alts altogether. Because I think that just historically, we have that solid run during the summer. So if we get as late as October, we missed it. But yeah. Nothing really secret with BaseSwap at the moment. I think that we've seen our wrapped ETH USDC pool with our wider tick spacing perform amazingly. I can't wait for more money to get into that pool because I think that we can really really go to doing 10, 20, $30 million in volume with just another maybe 40 or $50,000 in liquidity in that pool. So
wow.
that's really it.
So get in that pool and benefit yourself
Yeah.
through APR. Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
I think that's everything for today, folks. This is one of our better turnouts in a while. So I thank you all for tuning in.
awesome. Thank you guys so much for coming.
Thank you. That's it for this. We'll see you in the next one. Bye now, everyone.